Some more insight on the growing terror threat. Joining us, our CNN national security commentator, the former Congressman Mike Rogers. He was chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Also joining us, our national security analyst, Peter Bergen, and former Congresswoman Jane Harman. She's a leading intelligence expert. She heads the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. What do you make about this July 4th warning, if you will, a directive going out from the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI to all law enforcement across the United States? No specific threat maybe, but be on the lookout.
Well, it tells you, A, they don't have a specific threat. So they don't have a source of information in any form that says, we think in this region or this place or by this group of individuals there's going to be attacks. So that tells me that they don't have that specific conclusion on an event. But because of the calls, so they layer these threats. There's calls over Ramadan to get engaged. This recent spat of attacks will encourage other people to take up arms in an ISIS-sponsored terrorist attack somewhere in the world. That's what they're hoping for. And so I think they're being prudent. You don't want to scare too much. Again, it's going to take someone, an individual, to go through the planning process. Clearly, they don't have anything on that yet. But they do want to be vigilant in saying, all of the threats that we've seen over this series, this matrix comes together to say it is more highly likely there could be an attack on an event like July.
For a terror group, Peter, like Al-Qaeda or ISIS for that matter, how important symbolism is the July 4th holiday?
Well, we've seen attacks that happened when they were ready, which were not on symbolic dates, and the most threatening attack on the United States potentially was the Christmas Day 2009 attack, which might have brought down Northwest Flight 253 over Detroit. So sometimes they do go for symbolic days, and sometimes they just go when they're ready.
What do you think, Jane?
Well, Friday's attack was the anniversary of the creation of the so-called Islamist State. So they do mark anniversaries. But July 4th is a big deal in the United States, and people mass in public places. And they have to be right once. We have to be right 100% of the time. The odds don't favor us being right 100% of the time. And just think about that kid in Tunisia who surprised his whole family and his whole village by pulling this thing off. They thought he was a quiet, good kid with an advanced degree who obviously got radicalized in his basement on social media. This is the new normal. The new normal is quiet kids who have no police records pulling something off like this.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the social media has enabled these attacks around the world. We've seen them in Ottawa, we've seen them in Australia, we've seen them, attempted in this country, Garland, Texas. It didn't work out. But this is the reality.
All three of those attacks in France, near Lyon, in Tunisia, in Kuwait, different but similar in the sense that maybe ISIS-related and lone wolf individuals inspired, if you will, different modus operandi, if you will. Do you believe, since they happened on the same day within a matter of a few hours, they were related, coordinated?
It's hard to say if they were related. I don't buy the lone wolf because it was an individual. I think you have to track that back. One person can be a coordinated attack. Some of the supplies that were gained raises some issues. One had a suicide vest that clearly wasn't made in somebody's basement for the first time. That tells you there was a logistics train involved in that attack. Now, not all of them fit that profile, but they clearly, on its face of it, shows that there was some investigation. And we should remember the FBI domestically has an ISIS investigation open in all 56 field offices. That's why I think they're concerned about this. This is a big and growing problem, not only here, but in the
because, Jane, almost every other day they seem to be arresting someone in the United States. Today in New Jersey, someone in the United States for supposedly collaborating with ISIS or plotting a deed against the United States related to ISIS.
Well, I think there have been 9 arrests this month. I think it's 50 in the last year since March of 2014. 3 people have been killed evading arrests, but the number's going to go up. And what we want is people to see something and say something, and we want law enforcement to build trust with communities where some of these people are. Let's understand, this is not only Muslims who are conducting attacks in the United States, there are hate crimes too. Just think South Carolina, that tragedy just last week. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen, and it's easy access to how to build pressure cooker bombs or do other forms of use of explosives and guns.
These are soft targets, Peter. The factory in France, the beach, the resort in Tunisia, a mosque in Kuwait, these are easy targets.
Yeah, I mean, hotels can't turn themselves into prisons, right? I mean, by definition, they let people in. And similar with places of worship, whether it's in Charleston or whether it's in Kuwait, you have to let people in.
All right, guys, we're going to continue to stay on top of this story. Let's hope it's a quiet holiday, July 4th holiday here in the United States, guys. Thanks.